Hi, and welcome to Wrong Way. And today we're going to review the riding experience on the Extreme Bull Commander. So let me tell you more about it.
Wrong way.
And right away we start with torque and inclines. The version of the wheel I have is a HT high torque C38 motor. And this incline is 35 degrees steep, a hill that is pretty much unattainable for most power e-scooters. And with the Extreme Bull Commander, it's easy. In fact, it was so easy, it's the first time I conquered this hill going backwards. So in this video, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to share with you my riding experience with the Extreme Bull Commander. I've ridden this thing for around 400 kilometers now, mostly in cold conditions because, you know, it's winter still. I hope you all had a good Merry Christmas time. I certainly did. And yeah, let's enjoy the video. And in this video we'll have a bit of a less scripted format. I'm just basically gonna comment on what I'm seeing in the video, what I remember about the wheel, so feel free to comment below if you like this format. The Extreme Bull Commander isn't a light wheel by any means. It's as heavy as the Sherman at around 37 kilograms. But the biggest difference to it is that we have two motor variants, and a high torque wheel with a huge battery, because this one has 3600 watt hours, is something that in my eyes was missing on the market. And just look how I can lean here. This doesn't mean that you should lean like this every day, but this means that even for heavier riders, this wheel will have enough torque to keep you balanced when you brake a bit harder or accelerate a bit harder or go over hills. And a small disclaimer here, riding experience shouldn't be the only thing, the only criteria for which you decide to purchase a wheel, so make sure you check out my Teardown too and subscribe for the full review of this wheel. But let's get back to the ride. As you can see, I'm carving here, and in general I think that this wheel is really easy to ride. It doesn't have any train tracking, and it's easy also to go fast on it. But remember to set the tilt back speed around 50 kilometers an hour because you will not hear the beeps. And at lower battery percentage, just be very attentive. The Extreme Bull Commander has a old style Guads motor like we can see on the MSP, but the software here is so much different and so much better than in the older wheels. It has still plenty of torque and responsivity, but it doesn't feel like it's too much, or it doesn't feel like it's like tries to kick you off from the wheel. And another thing is that I don't feel pretty much any pedal dipping. So even though the pedals could be higher on this wheel, as you can see here, they're a bit low to the ground, or the tire could be, you know, wider, I still feel kind of confident in turns. I prefer still long turns rather than sharp turns, and you know, for sharp turns, this is not really a wheel you want to take. It's, in my opinion, also not a sports wheel. I think that it's, you know, a easygoing long-term cruiser that can also accelerate or brake really fast if you need to. I also think that the limits are not set, you know, too high for this wheel. I still got it to, you know, beep a couple times, overpowered it. It's not like you can't overpower it. It's just a limit that is way higher than on high-speed wheels, like for example, the veteran Sherman. It's easy to maintain speed on it, and thanks to the good weight distribution, I pretty much don't get any fatigue at all. During my 130 kilometer range test, I was going much faster, much faster than on other wheels, and even though it was colder, it got way more range than the veteran Sherman. And as said, even going through, you know, off-roads, through all of those, you know, tracks that you get a bit further from the city, there are bumps, there are, you know, some obstacles that you might not expect, and this thing just like flies over them. I think it's thanks to the software. And as you can see here, 30-degree incline, it's just, you know, playful on it. Now, you have to keep in mind that it's also winter, so this wheel won't get as hot as in the summer, but for the most part here it didn't get too warm. But you know, it's -1 degrees or even less, so yeah, that's that. I didn't also push the wheel too hard. I probably could have gotten a quicker acceleration, you know, some more insane inclines, but with these temperatures you just, you know, gotta watch out. With the MSP and the old Monster, I always had the issue that on successive bumps, as you can see here, also the MSS I tested a while back, it just pedal dips like crazy, and this thing just stays flat. I'm very, very impressed by the software of the Extreme Bull because it just feels so planted. Alright, now let's go a bit into off-road, and this is actually the area where I was recently testing this e-bike on the Bear e-bike wrestle frame. And tell you what, this thing was just a champ here. Check it out, the same hill and the 10 kilowatt e-bike couldn't go up here, and this thing just flies up. The only thing that it struggles is sometimes grip, but that's because it doesn't have suspension. So yeah, I'm eagerly waiting for the S20. So when it comes to wheels that don't have any suspension, I think that this wheel is actually a really good contender for off-road riding. It has, you know, endless amount of range, way more than the EXN High Torque, and it also rides a lot better than the EXN High Torque. I can, you know, dial in the amount of lean, the amount of pressure I put onto my torque, I mean on my torque pads here, and it will, you know, spin out a bit, and then I pull back a bit, and then I keep on going. It's insane that in this weather on, you know, sort of frozen sand or like soil covered with snow, I can pretty accurately tackle all of those off-road trails. So, you know, if you would be going on similar surfaces in the summer, you know, where there are ruts or some sort of, you know, more difficult obstacles, this thing just goes. And because it has a narrower tire, it doesn't have the effect that it sort of like, you know, throws you in one or the other direction like the Sherman has. So that's great. But on the other hand, it does have just a bit of a lack of clearance in turns, especially if you want to make sharper turns when going faster. This is, I guess, a thing I don't like that much. And back to the pedal dipping. In turns, you know that Gotways tend to have a lot of pedal dipping in turns. This thing has, you know, almost none. I feel like it has exactly the same amount as my V11 or even less. When accelerating hard, it does have a bit of a pedal dip, and decelerating hard, the pedals go up a bit, but it's nothing that would be annoying. Now, disclaimer here, I was only riding this thing in hard mode. All of the other modes weren't really well dialed in. I didn't like medium, didn't even try soft, but the hard mode is pretty great. All right, let's test it on the 40-degree incline. This was probably the easiest time I ever climbed this hill. This wheel has a lot of torque, and yet it's also very achievable, very controllable. I really like it. Alright, this is so already another day, a bit colder, -8 degrees Celsius, and yeah, just a bit more street riding, and also later a bit of a snow adventure. And even in this cold weather, the range stays great. I oftentimes go like 30-40 kilometers and I have still 70 or even 80% battery left. Going on wider streets like this one, I usually feel comfortable around 50, a bit over 50 kilometers an hour because, hey, sadly, Warsaw traffic is very fast, and yeah, that's that. But I try to keep around 50, and there it is. Performing pretty well. Maybe I would like to have a bit more top end because especially when the battery is low, like under 20-30%, it starts beeping below 50 kilometers an hour. But other than that, I feel pretty comfortable on it. And as said before, I set my tilt back to 51 kilometers an hour. It feels extremely smooth. It's really quick to accelerate with, but on turns, because of the narrow, rim, I definitely need to tilt the UC more than, for example, on a V12 or a veteran Sherman. So then I'm a bit scared of scratching the pedals, so I usually take the turns a lot wider, or I just have to slow down a bit. On cobblestone in the old town here, by the way, street is closed, that's why everyone is enjoying it so much, along with me. It feels also pretty good, there's, as said, no pedal dipping, it feels smooth, there's just something about it, just makes it just cruise over everything. And if you made it so far in the video, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to support the channel and see more content like this. A thing I forgot to say earlier is that I also have different pedals now mounted on the wheel. These are Nila spiked pedals. I could survive a bit on the original pedals that were here on this wheel, but they were definitely a lot too slippery when wet, and the amount of pins was too little, and the pins were also not like MTB pins, so they were just in general slippery. I liked it a lot that they were very wide and big, but with the Nila I just unlocked the power and potential of this wheel. And as you can see here, the wheel is slipping out a lot, really a lot, but it keeps on climbing. That's just because I can, adjust the pressure, adjust the lean so well on this software, and I have also quite a bit of grip with the off-road CST tire that I can still climb it. And tell you what, going in snow like here, it was just pretty enjoyable. I tried, riding the veteran Sherman back to back, but the veteran Sherman was just train tracking too much. So if there was like ice on the road or some irregular surface, it would just, steer me off to one or the other side. It was just a bit more tedious, a bit more difficult. And here, you point in one direction and it goes. And that's also why I think that it's a, beginner sort of friendly wheel to try out, and just a wheel that you don't think about a lot when you're riding, you just ride. And a perfect example is here. I'm riding on ice. It's really deep frozen ice with ruts made by bicycles. When it was warm, then it gets frozen. And I can just, pretty freely ride between 20 to 30 kilometers an hour without falling. Like, that's pretty impressive. And as said, I tried the same thing on the Sherman. On the Sherman, I could do it too, but way slower and with a lot less control. Keep in mind though that this wheel does not have a IP rating, and Goat in general isn't known for their best quality, so make sure you stick around for the main review. Now, all of that is not to say that this wheel doesn't feel heavy. It definitely feels heavier than lighter wheels. There is no like magic remedy that makes the wheel just light, even if it's not. You can still do some sort of small pendulum, and it's relatively easy to go backwards, forwards, and accelerate hard, but it will still feel heavier than, I don't know, like a Kia 16X or a Emotion V12. But therefore you also gain a lot of stability. So slowly we are getting towards the end of the video, so I think it's time to conclude all of the riding experience. And in general, I was just very satisfied with riding on the Extreme Bull Commander. I felt like it was just a tool that rides well. It doesn't create a lot of effort. It's very seamless to ride, very smooth to ride, yet it's not as bulky and big as, for example, the Abrams or the Monster Pro, and definitely has a lot better quality than all of the Goat wheels. Like, I think that this is by far best wheel, It's not really by Begode, it's by Extreme Bull, but in terms of riding experience, it's just pretty amazing. Now, I didn't ride the HS version. I don't know if I will ride it at any time, but I was just very, very happy with the HD config. And definitely if you're in a hilly area, if you like off-road, if you like range, if you're a heavier rider, then HD is the way to go. One last thing I wanted to mention is that it was very enjoyable to ride seated as well. It has, I believe, a bit of a wider top on the wheel when it comes to the shell, and therefore it was just easy to just plonk down and ride seated. And because it didn't have so much train tracking, it's relatively easy to control it when riding seated too. Now it would be maybe cool if Extreme Bull came out with a seat for it, because there is no seat for it. But I know, even with just the plastic as it is, it wasn't too bad. I also had this tape on the display. Maybe I should have said that earlier, but the tape just helped me to make the display visible in the day. In the night it wasn't no problem, but in broad daylight it wasn't that visible. But still cool that there is a display. Anyways, I hope that you like this format of the video. I hope that you enjoyed it too. So if you're still here, leave a like on the video, subscribe to see more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video. See you soon.